Tractate Eiruvin, page 25, 2 lines from the top of the page. The Gemara tells us as follows: Karpaf yoter mibetzatayim meorot hadav. Picture number 147. If there is a karpaf, the size is yoter mibetzatayim, which we discussed day before yesterday. Shelo hukaf ledira uba lemato. Usually what we said about karpaf, that the person make those mechitzot around the karpaf in order to make it a dwelling place. Here we are in a situation that it wasn't for dwelling purposes, and now you want to make it smaller. Mi'ato be'ilanot lo have mi'ut. If he used trees to make it smaller, that's not considering a mi'ut, because it's still under the domain that it's forbidden to carry, because usually what happened with karpaf, they have ilanots there, so it's considering part of the karpaf, and therefore their location is part of the karpaf. That's basically what Rashi and Ritva tells us. Now he said, Banabo amud gavoa asara. If he build a post that has the size of 10 handbreadth, asarat tfachim. Do you see it, Natan? Okay. So he said, verachav arba'a, and they have the what?
The width.
The width of 4 handbreadth. Have miut. So the size of the entire karpaf became smaller, and therefore it's fine. And Rashi said, ve'afilu be'emtza uvekach nitma'et mibetzatayim, because even at the center part becomes smaller. Rashi add to that, and he said, the derech karpaf liyot bo ilanot. So how do you make the karpaf, the hechsher karpaf, when it's more than beitzatayim, that you can carry in the karpaf? He said, since usually they have trees, so it's normal. But if we build this amud, this pillar, it's okay. Now, remember we talk about lavud, when it's below than 3? He says, pachot mishlosha lo have miut. So it means if it's below than 3 handbreadth, so Rashi said, lo nechshav miut. That's already not considering a reduction, because this part of pillar at the center or whatever they are, it doesn't have any value. So basically you don't separate between this part to the entire karpaf. The Gemara later tells us that that's a consequence, Rashi said, of the din lavud, which we study a lot in the Tractate Shabbat. So therefore, in lavud we said, if you have a space that it's below than shloshat tfachim, the 3 handbreadth, it's considering satum, it's like a block. So therefore, it's not considered anything below than 3. Now, shloshat tfachim ve'ad arba'a, if we have this pillar, do you see it? Everyone see it? Okay. If you have this pillar between 3 to 4, now we enter the domain of the machloke. That's a dispute. Why? Because Rabbah amar ave miut. Rabbah said if he's a, let's say, 3.5, oh, so that's basically changed the whole status of the karpaf, and therefore you can go ahead and carry it. Ve'Rava amar, with V, lo ave miut. Now we're going to elaborate on the point. Rabbah amar have miut. Why? Because we just explained that lavud is below than 3 tfachim, so if it's come out of that, it means that it's below than that, usually 3 handbreadth, it's considering a space that carries some importance. So the side of the lavud is not considering part of that. But he said, Rava amar lo have miut. Rava said no. Why? Kivan de lo have mekom arba'a lo chashiv. If it does not have the category of 4 handbreadth, so since the rochav is the length, right? The length, the width. Sure. Thank you. The width of this pillar, or how do you call the lechi post?
Yeah,
post pillar. It doesn't reach the 4 tfachim, 4 handbreadth. It doesn't wide. It doesn't carry the chashivut, the value, the importance in regards to Shabbat. Because remember, when we talk about hotza'ah in Shabbat, carries from one domain to another, we require a person to carry from one public domain, and he is obligated. When is that? It's when he exceeded 4 handbreadth. You remember we discussed it there? So therefore, it's at the beginning of Shabbat, page 4, we discussed it. So he said, so it's as long as it's not reached the size of the 4, this little post or pillar doesn't carry anything. That's Rava said. Now, the very similar machloket between Rabbah and Rava in regards to this karpaf, that it's exceeded more than Beit Sa'atayim. Now we you remember we discussed a situation in yesterday. We said if it's a situation that you change the designation. You remember we said that it was designated for one purpose and you change it to make it a dwelling places, and we discussed a zoning issue with the city and everything. So now we ask a question, is if you make a new fence around it, what's the halacha? So look at Meorot Daf, picture number 148. They said as follows: Hirchik min hakotel 4 ve'asa mechitza. If you see here, that's the size of the karpaf, and he put a space of 4 handbreadth, and then he made this mechitza, this petition, and Rashi said ve'asa mechitza ledira. He made this petition for the purpose of dwelling. Ho'il mechitza zol להיות היקף חדש והווי פתח ובסוף הוא כף. So that's considering like in a sense he make for the dwelling a new entrance. So this is more than Beit Sa'atayim, and thus the 4. Clear? Now he said, Oil, that's good, you can now carry. So the Rosh here elaborate on that. And he said that when you change a designation here and you make it leshem dira, for the purpose of dwelling, especially chadasha, for the new one, that's applicable. Rosh said, Rabbeinu Asher, he said that this mechitza you don't need for the entire kir, for the entire wall. Why? Because soon you see that the new one change it totally. Let's continue first. Pachot mishlosha lo il. But if it was below than 3 tfachim, it's no good. Next, mishlosha ve'ad 4. So, okay. So here is the question. We said here, if you look at this picture, that soon you see that is a distance. But here in this one, what is trying to tell us that from 3 to 4 tfachim, that's exactly the machloket we discussed earlier. That Rabbah said, ho'il, that you can carry, and Rava said eno mo'il. Now let's see what they said. Natan, can you hold it, please? Thank you, both sides, because I want to use the Gemara a little bit. Thank you. Rabba amar ho'il, just show the picture and I want to explain something. Rabba amar ho'il dehana faklei mitorat lavud. Rabba said that if this one, you can point to this picture, okay? He said that nafakle mitorat lavud. We explained that lavud is the 3, right? Mm-hmm. So he said the hanafikle, when you have this distance below than 3 handbreadth, it's change from the status of lavud. So let's see what Rashi said here. Rashi tells us here, klomar, deha chashivle shlosha be'alma למייפק מתורת לבוד, הילקח הכינה מחשיבי ולא בטל. So Rashi here used the word klomar, and in my book I elaborate what Rashi meant. He basically asked, what's the relationship between the lavud we study in Tractate Shabbat to the point here in regards to mechitzot, to petition in this case. So, especially since we said if they have the airspace that it's exceeded more than 3, so it's already lavud. So, what he tried to say is that it's not just the category of lavud, it's just speaking about the space and the minutes that it's space, all the Torat lavud, meaning we have in halacha a category of measurement. There's a certain measure. So lavud carry a measurement that can be used for other purposes. That's what Rashi wants to elaborate, in my view, when he used the word klomar. Now, Rava amar eno mo'il. Rava tells us that if we have between 3 to 4 tfachim here, it's not sufficient. Why? Kevan de lo have mekom arba'a lo chashiv. He said, because the space, it doesn't have the 4 tfachim, so it's not considering independent. So even you have this long spot and space, he said that it's still not sufficient. Now, very important, soon you see what we start discussing, the Rosh and the Rambam. Rav Shimi matnei lekula. Rav Shimi takes this machloket between Rabbah and Rava, and he said that they go in a lenient way, which means if a person build some type of post that they have the length of 3 handbreadth, so width of 3 handbreadth, so he said it's a fine. The only disputation it's in regard to below than 3 handbreadth, that if he build any type of post that it's below than 3 handbreadth, then you have Rabbah that said it's enough, it's good, it's called mi'ut, and Rava said no. Also, if it distance from the wall below than 3 handbreadth and he build a new wall, so you remember that we said that the minute you build a new wall, you are in a new category. So if you did it for the purpose of new dwelling, so you hold that it's fine. And Rava said no. So basically I'm based what I'm saying, it's according to Rashi. The Ritva disagree. I just want to mention as a side note, the Rosh and the Ritva. The Rosh tells us that you don't need to have a mechitza, a petition for the entire wall. He holds the minute you have a new one, it's basically demolish the value of the old one. And basically all these machloket, he add another point, he says, we have kaimelan b'machloket tanaim velo b'machloket amoraim, which means we hold this type of dispute when it's applied to Tanaik but not to Amoraic. The Ritva disagree with that, and this was said that he disagreed with the Rosh and in the Rashi, and he said that this type of mechitza, this petition, need to be throughout the whole wall. It's not just part of itself. Anyway, ימתח בו טיט ויכול לעמוד בפני עצמו, if the owner, what did he do? He put teeth. What did they say? Teeth?
Mud.
Mud.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
mortar, mortar.
Mortar. Mortar
Mm-hmm.
is better.
Mm-hmm.
So he put mortar. What is goal? He wants to make the ovi, the width of the wall, larger.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, the karpaf, it will be below than bet sa'atayim. So he said, "V'yachol la'amod bifnei atzmo," and that mortar can stand by itself. Have a mute. It's already considering below, and it's fine. Eino yachol la'amod bifnei atzmo. But if this wall cannot stand, these mortars, that's the right
mortar.
Mortar.
Yeah, mortar.
Thank you.
Yep.
Cannot stand by itself. So now it's a machloket. According to Rabbah, regardless, it's considering a miut, have a miut. Rabbah amar lo have a miut. Now they explain. Rabbah amar have a miut, hashta mi hakai. At this point, you have this mortar. So, what's the difference if it stands by itself or it stands by the wall? It reduces the size.
Mm-hmm.
רבה אמר לו הווה מיעוט כיוון דלא יכול למיקם בפני עצמו, since this mortar cannot stand independently, לא כלום הוא, it's just like pile of mortar that on the top of that karpaf, that it's not reduce the size of the karpaf. הרחיק מן התל 4 ועשה מחיצה. So here you have this pile, and Rashi said, ויש מן התל עד המחיצה יותר מבית סעתיים, אבל זו, the new petition, לדירה הסעה. He made that for the purpose of dwelling. So what we said, it's basically you have this tel that it's divided between the two pieces. The two pieces of the karpaf. So he said, ho'il, that's good. Why? Because as we explained, the minute you make a new petition, it's already a new story. Right? It's okay, you can use it. He said, pachot mishlosha, if it's less than 3 handbreadth, or al sfat hatel, or al sfat hatel. Now you see the next picture of Meorot, page 150.
Built on the mound, yeah.
Yeah, on this mound. So it's already, he used part of the mound to make this petition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So he said, that's machloket. Rav Chizda v'Rav Amnuna. Chad amar ho'il. One said that you can carry in the karpaf, and the other one said, Chad amar lo ho'il. You cannot carry in the karpaf. Tistayem. So what's the bottom line? So they said, the Rav Chizda amar ho'il. Rav Chizda said that it's good. Why? The itmar ha'oseh mechitza al gabei mechitza. If someone made a mechitza, he made a petition on the top of the other. Just hold it because soon we need the other one. Okay? So, Amar Rav Chizda, Beshabbat hu'il. When it's come to use it for Shabbat, it's fine. Benichse ager lo kana. So when it's come to Shabbat, it's considering a mechitza, it's considering a petition, regardless if it's the heights or the width, right? Even it's below than 3 handbreadth. Now, nichse ager. The Gemara tells us in the Tractate Yevamot 62 that someone who's convert to Judaism, it's considering like a newborn.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute he is newborn, anyone who's born to him before, in that sense, has to have either separate conversion, but basically it's like a new child. Now, if he passed and is no children, now we ask a monetary question in regard to property. If that fellow passed away and he has no children whatsoever,
No heirs.
no heirs, I meant in a sense that born after his conversion, so they said that if you take a chazakah, is a famous Gemara in Bava Batra, page 42, that said that if someone come in and Na'al, Gadar, Paratz, someone, for example, took a Malkosh, how do you say, he took a something for the ground to put
shovel or
something like that,
spade.
and start working in that property,
Plow
or do all kind of things in that property. It's like, because it doesn't have the ownership, so the next thing can go ahead and use it. It's his. So here we said
anything to improve the property, I guess.
improve the property, to use it. So they said benichse ager lo kana. So in other words, if he made mechitza, one petition at the top of the other, so he is not the last person is the one who basically have the ownership. ורב ששת אמר אף בשבת נם אלוהים. Right? So Rav Sheshet said, even in Shabbat, mechitza on the top of mechitza, it doesn't go. So he said, tistayem. So what do you understand? That Rav Chizda is the one who said that if someone make the mechitza within the tel, okay. So he said that if this petition at the top of the petition, if this mechitza al gabe mechitza, so he hold, you can carry. But now, Amar Rav Chizda. So Rav Chizda explained here, and he said, now this is the picture number 151, and he said as follows. Hold it. Thank you. אמר רב חיסדא, ומודה לי רב ששת, רב ששת agree with me, that שאם עשה מחיצה על התל, okay, this is the tel, and this is the מחיצה. So it made one at the top of the others. And that's called mechitzot elionot, and that's the space on that mechitzot. Okay? So he said, she'o'il, my tama, that it's work. Why? Ho'il uva'avir mechitzot ha'elionot hu dar. Meaning, since he's living over the airspace on the top of the petition, so he said that that's fine, which means the karpaf, it doesn't make a difference here, because it's a beside of the tel and beside of the mechitzot, they have the airspace here before the property itself, and therefore he said that it's fine, which means mechitza that he put at the top of that tel, he said it's considering like a new one, and it's fine. Ba'e Rabba bar Chana. He says, what happened is nivle'u mechitzot atachtonot va'elionot kayamot ma'u. So he asked a question, what happened here if it's below than one the other? So let me explain something. If you have situation that you have the ger on the top, if you live on the top of the tel, okay, so the mechitzot, the bottom mechitzot will not be good enough. But if you have the new mechitzot, it's fine. Here, Rabbi Bar Chana said, for those who say that mechitza on the top of mechitza, it's not good, if this one swallow with the other, which means they combine them together, this mechitzot, considering a permanent or not, lemai, ile nichse ager, hainu de yirmi abira, de amar yirmi abira, amar Rav Yehuda, haiman de shada lifta, apila de ar adeger. If someone throw a lefet, I don't know what they said here, what is a lefet? What?
Turnip.
Turnip. So you throw it in the hole in the ground of the convert, the pest. Ve'ata Israel acharina rafak bapurta. Comes someone else and did some job, as we said, Gemara in Yevamot 62 and Gemara in Bava Batra, and he does some gadar paratz naal, does some jobs there. But rakane kama lokane. The second one get it. The first one no. So he said, Maitama, what's the reason? He said, Be'idna deshada lo kashavach. The time that he throw it, it doesn't have any.
It doesn't improve the property.
Property. Ki kashavcha, and eventually when it's improved, nimela kashavcha by itself. So it means, in order for someone to acquire what belongs to a convert, he really needs to make something that improve the property, not just work on the property, but improve it. Shabbat, but in regards to the question of Shabbat, have a mechitza nasa b'Shabbat, even as a new petition, it's made on Shabbat. V'tane kol mechitza nasa b'Shabbat, ben b'shuvek ben mevizit shma mechitza. If anything that made any petition made Shabbat, regardless if it's intentional or on one written, it's mechitza. La v'itmar ala, amar Rav Nachman lo shanu ela lizrok, aval etaltel asur. So what does that mean, aval etaltel asur? To carry, you cannot carry. It's very important to understand that the sages put all the time boundaries. And what's the boundary? The issue here is someone did on Shabbat something, right? So the sages said that if a person make this mechitzot, this petition on Shabbat, you should not carry them. So what do you mean by that? Ki idmar de Rav Nachman mezid itmar. You have to say, that's by the way the Sfat Emet also hold, that that's the way it should be. If someone does this type of work of putting the petition on Shabbat, the sages said you cannot go ahead and carry it there. So, because that's basically violation of Shabbat, in a way. But if a person somehow made it unintentionally, so that's different. You can carry them. We now bringing in a story that applied to the property of someone who converted to Judaism. Hahi iteta de avda mechitza al gabe mechitza benichse ager. It was a certain woman that she erected a petition, and on top of the petition, in the property of the deceased convert. So what's the problem here?
She didn't really improve the property.
She didn't improve the property, but she did something.
She did something, but not.
And you remember what we said, the Gemara in Bava Batra and Gemara in Yevamot. Okay. Ata hu gavra. Now another fellow came in. Rafak ba purta. He basically took the shovel and start walking there. Ata lekamei de Rav Nachman. He came before Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman was a big posek, and he said, "It's mine." Okma beyadei. So Rav Nachman said, "Fine, it's yours." Atat hi vekatzavcha kamei. She come and screamed, and she said, "It's mine." Amar la, ma eved lach. דלא מחזקתם מחזז כאינשי. What Rav Nachman said to her, if you improve the property, if you come in and take a shovel and start working on the properties and improve the value, then you deserve something. Lehavdil is like, sometimes you hear for those contractors that dealing with cities of Baltimore, I know as a matter of fact that from some fellow congregants. So they said, they come to the city and wants to get all different grants. I'm walking around Hopkins and I'm doing all kind of improvement and developing. So the city always said, okay, if it was a war zone or if it was a boarding area, you know, and you take those properties and you improve them tremendously, that's different. Mm-hmm. But just to come to the city said, okay, it was a boarding house that you give away for $1, the city sometimes give it away. Mm-hmm. And you came in and you just put your name on that property and you do nothing, why should we give you any grant for that? Now, we discuss here in a Karpaf situation that it doesn't designated for dwelling. Let's go back to our picture. And we are now in picture, can you please hold it? Thank you. Picture number 152. Karpaf Beit Shalosh. If you have 3 batei se'ah in the size of the Karpaf, and he said here, Vekeirabo Beit Se'ah, and he put a tikra, a roof, in the size of se'ah. So imagine that this is 1, about 2, and a 3. So he took one of the third. You remember we talked about 2 batei se'ah. So he took the third part of batei se'ah and he made a roof here. So now we see Rabba Amar Aver keruyo meyatro, which means that part of the Karpaf that it exceeded the Beit Se'ah time and therefore you cannot carry there. So it's part of the whole opening. The fact that he put some roofing here doesn't change the status.
It's irrelevant.
Leima Rabba v'Rabbi Zera beflukta derav Shmuel kamifligei. It's that relate to the early machloket we discussed earlier. The Itmar. Now we're going to the next picture, 153. Ach sadra bebik'ah. If we have a building that have these pillars and is in the place that it's a little valley, okay? Rav Amar mutar letaltel bechula. He said you can carry in any place you can carry in all the place. Why? As soon as you see the explanation, ושמואל אמר אין מטלטלים אלא בתוך 4 אמות. He says only the 4 אמות because that's the din of Carmelit. Now we explain. Rava אמר מותר לטלטל בחולה. Rava said that you can carry any place. דאמרינן פי תקרה יורד וסותם. Because we said that the roof, it's coming down and feel it. So it means it's like the top coming down. So that's, by the way, the Gemara in Sukkah, page 6, they say that that's halacha leMoshe Sinai. But this piti cry, it's coming down. Yored vesotem, it's like feeling it. Ushvuel amar ein metaldelim ela ב4 אמות. He says only in the 4 cubit you can carry. Why? Lo amrinan piti cry Yored vesotem. He doesn't hold that this halacha leMoshe Sinai not apply to this situation. He apply only if it's a physical mechitza, but if it's a open space, he said that halacha leMoshe Sinai, it's not applicable. That's, by the way that Rashi said it. The Tosfot here have a lot to say, but if we try to simplify what we discuss here, try to use your brain in that sense. Let's think together. Rav said, look, halacha leMoshe Sinai is halacha leMoshe Sinai. From Sinai, that's where we receive the tradition. So therefore, even I don't see physical side, but since we have this pitikra, the top of the roof, it's like blocked. That's the halakha Moshe Sinai, that's what we received. Shmuel said, hey, what are you talking about? I don't see anything here. So whatever halakha Moshe Sinai in pitikra, it's applicable, but not here. Okay? Now we turn the page. We just turned the page 25b. Now we try to explain the machloket, the disputation between Rabbah and Rabbi Zera. They said, Ki I avida, ki achsadra. When we made like enclosed vernada. Hachename hache b'mayaskinan, the avda ki urzila. That he made it like a hammock. So, okay, this is the karpaf. And Rashi said, Yatzia gag meshupa. You see the roof, it's go like this. The leika peh, it's not like mouth and entrance. Now, let's explain here what's involved. When we talk about the machloket between Rabbah and Rabbi Zera, so both Rabbah and Rabbi Zera agreed that if the roof is shatuach, which is flat, in a flat roof, even they don't have a physical partition here, it's fine. The only disputation between Rabbah and Rabbi Zera applies when it's made like that, meshupa, it's moving. What's the issue? Rabbi Zera said that since you have this type, you see it?
Yeah, like a peaked roof.
So it's like it's closed. Rabbah said no. It's not mechitza and it's not closed. So again, let's make sure that we understand. Flat roof, they don't dispute, Rabbah and Rabbi Zera. The only dispute is in this type of roof. One said that this considering as a petition, the other one said not. Amar Rabbi Zera umodina, that we agreed. Come, my friend. Oh, you know what? Let's Natan do it. Natan, come. You hold it. Okay. Can you hold it both hands? Thank you. Just this hand here. Thank you. So he said, Amar Rabbi Zera umodina. You see here this picture 155. Bekarpaf shenifratz bimlo'o lechatzer. Here you see, this is the karpaf. Originally speaking, that was the karpaf. But guess what happened? They made it fully open for a yard. And you see here, this is the development in that yard. So he said, she'asu, in that sense, since it's open, and this is Beit Sa'atayim, so you cannot carry here. Mai tama, ho'il ve'avir chatzer meyatro. He said, because the additional space of the courtyard join to the karpaf and render it in excess of 2 Beit Se'ah, and consequently you cannot carry here. Okay? Matkif la Rav Zeira. Rav Zeira strongly opposed, and he said, V'chi avira hamutar lo osro. You're going to tell me that this, can you hold it? Thank you. That this space in which is permitted to carry render the karpaf, that's prohibited, because originally you said that you can carry from one place to the way that Rabbi Shimon that allowed to carry between different size of hekefim. Rabbi Shimon allowed it. So Now this one, you cannot say that that's complete the karpaf. Remember that it's already 2 beitza a time. So what's the issue here? So he said, Amar le'Abaye keman, according to whom you have a problem with this. He says, your problem is only ke Rabbi Shimon. Why? Because remember we said that Rabbi Shimon is the one who allowed it to carry between the two. The sages disagree. Le Rabbi Shimon name, even according to Rabbi Shimon, ha'ika avir makom mechitzot. Even according to Rabbi Shimon, there is a space where the walls that now breach. And therefore, even according to the Rabbi Shimon, you cannot do it. The Amar Rav Chizda, karpaf שנפרץ במלואו לחצר, החצר מותרת והקרפף אסור. If you have karpaf that it's open fully to a yard, so what did he say? The yard you can carry, but the karpaf forbidden. Chatzer maitama, why are you allowed to carry in the yard? The itlei gipufe, because it had the remnant of the original walls on either side of the breach, which allowed the breach to be treated like an entrance. Okay? That's the reason you allow it. However, v'hazimnin de'ishtakach la ipcha, but sometimes, now look at the next picture, sweetie, lift it, thank you, 156, says, but hazimnin, because sometimes it happens, the mishtakach la ipcha. Look what happened here. You see here the situation with those parts? Now look here what happened. The opposite. You find the opposite. If the courtyard was narrow, and then the karpaf and the partition between them are fully breached, okay? So the karpaf retained the remnant of the original walls, right, in either side of the breach, while the courtyard, it's breached entirely, okay? So we don't understand Rav Chizda yet. What's the rationale here? Ela mishum de amrinan, but you must say the reason for that, it's because, now hold it please, that's the last one for that side. No, just hold it here, hold here please. Okay, no, you're covering it, thank you. In picture number 157, he said mishum de amrinan ze avir mechitzot meyatro וזה אוויר מחיצות מיתרו, which means the space, because the karpaf, they said these fallen walls have the access to 2 beitzeah in both sides, and the other one, the spade of the walls, fallen wall, does not render it to access in its limits. So here Rashi tells us, and I wrote here in my book, I explained this Rashi, that the reality is, reality is that this airspace did makes a difference, did meyatro. So Rashi said, en yitur o serbo. So in short, what Rashi tried to say here, that this small space here, it's not the one who forbids it. That's the reason I think Rashi used the word klomar. That this space of the mechitza, airspace, right, it's basically combined to make it longer. So therefore, you can carry either karpaf or in the chatzer. Now we said hahu bustana. Now we go to picture 158. Here is a story. You have here an incidence of certain orchard. You see this orchard? Mm-hmm. the Hava Samich le'ugda de Amptena, that he was next to the wall of a mansion. See, large property here. Nafal Ashita Baraita de Abdana. So they said that the outer wall fall. So the outer wall of the mansion collapse, and it happens. So now what happened? You have an issue because you don't have the outside wall that separate here. Correct? Savar Rav Bibi lemeimar. So Rav Bibi hold in that situation. He said, "Lismoch aguda gavyata," that we can depend upon this wall, the inter wall, the inside wall. So if you was the inner wall, it basically served as a mechitza, it's a petition, instead of the outside wall. So he said, Amar le Rav Papi. Rav Papi said to Rav Bibi, he said, wait a second. Mishum de'atu mimulai. It's like a derogatory statement. Because you came from a family of people who cut off their days, which means die young. Amritu milei multaye. You're like saying, speak incorrectly. Hanach mekritzot legavai avdina, lebarai lo avinan. This petition has nothing to do with outer part of the property. It made to separate inside the mansion between the different rooms or different walls. This has nothing to do with outside. You're going to tell me that this inner petition have anything to do with outside? Another story. Hahu abvarnaka, which means, you see here this picture 159. Hahu abvarnaka. It was the abvarnaka is like the auxiliary. That
yeah.
Right. The Havalei leresh galuta bebustanei, that he has a pavilion in his orchard. So this is the property of the macher, the Rosh Galuta, right? And he has this in his orchard. Now, Amarle le Ravuna bar Chinana. The Rosh Galuta said to Ravuna bar Chinana, he said, Le'aved mar takanta de lemachar nochal nahamatam. I want tomorrow to eat here bread. Make something that it will be available. You see here, this is the entrance, and this is the spot they want to eat here. So what did he do? Azal avad kane pachot mishlosha. So he came in, Ravuna bar Chinana, and he make this small post, boom, boom, boom. You see all of them? Mm-hmm. But it's below than 3 handbreadth. All around. So you see here, this is the area in general.
They're less than 3 tfachim apart.
Less 3 tfachim apart. Mm-hmm. One pirush in Rashi, he said, Kegon mechitzot kanim, this type of petition, להניח שם בלילה המאכל ולדור שם השובר. You know why he did it? Rashi said he wants the guard to live there, to put stuff there at night and to live there. So that's the first interpretation. But there is another one that Rashi brought, and for that we need the next picture. And he said here in picture number 160, ובתשובת הגאונים מצאתיה בלשון אחר, I found in the Geonic era in different way, והברקתא כמין אכסדרה, או קובה שבונים המלכים בתוך פרדס. This is the way that the kings, the big royal families building, it's like a separate area for themselves. So they build this Aksadra, and this is his property, okay? And here is the shady area. Imagine it's very hot over there in Babylon. ועבד רב הונא כמין שביל בין הפתח עד האבוונקה. You see what he did? He did this קנה, below than 3 טפחים, between the mansion to the Aksadra area. So here you see the shady area because of the Aksadra, and you see kane between the property to here. So that's a different version in Rashi. Next, page 26, just a few lines to finish the Sugiyah. 26, Shalfinhu. So he went there, boom, he uprooted it. He removed it, the reeds. Why? Because you can carry regardless. You don't need this type of reeds in between. So they went both Rav Papa and Rav Huna bar Yoshua, and they went after him and collected the reeds. So they want to prevent Rav Huna bar Chinana from restoring the petition. So למחר, the next day, הייתי ורבינה לרבה. So Ravina asked Rava, עיר חדשה, if you have a new town, that it's a field of wall, you don't have houses there. מודדים לה מישיבתה. You measure the Shabbat, the limit in that area, from the place that is the dwelling place, וישנה מחומתה, and the old one from its the old town from its wall. איזו היא חדשה ואיזו היא ישנה. What's considering new and what's old? So he said חדשה שהוא כבר ולסוף ישבה. New one is that first surrounded by wall and only afterward people settle. ישנה שישבה ולבסוף הוא כבר. Old town is something that settled and only then it's surrounded. והי נמי, and here in the place that you have this orchard, that it was before the building of that town, כהוקפה ולבסוף ישבה דמי, that it's considering it's a first surrounded by wall and only afterward settled. So here we going in Mitzvah Shem tomorrow to explain that basically that's prove what originally Rav Huna bar Chinana did, that he put these reeds. It makes sense, because otherwise how you carry in that alleyway, especially when you compare it to that sugya. First halacha is Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Shinun Chet, the 358. Mi'ut bailanot, if the enclosure that is larger than 2 beit se'ah, and that was not initially fenced for the purpose of residence, is planted with trees, the space taken up by the trees does not reduce the area of the enclosure, even if each tree is the size of independent domain. We said, but if area of karpaf is reduced by means of a post or column that have 10 handbreadth height, the reduction is effective, provided that the column is more than 3 handbreadth wide. Now, if he distance himself at least 3 handbreadth from the wall of the karpaf and erects an additional petition, it's effective, and that's the way we said that we lenient according to the Rava. We also discussed if it was a plaster the wall with the plaster. So we said once the plaster the wall of the enclosure and the plaster can stand on its own, so the action serves to reduce the size of the enclosure. However, if the plaster cannot stand by its own, so it's not good and you cannot use it. We also discussed a petition at the top of the other. So it said that that's not suffice for the equation of the property, acquisition of the property of the deceased convert. We explained earlier the whole idea of convert in that sense is Choshen Mishpat 275. In Shabbat, the petition erected at the top of the other petition is not halachically effective with regard to the Shabbat, since the halacha is according to the opinion of Rav Sheshet, who is considered a greater authority than Rav Chizda. However, if it was erected on the top of the mound, so he said if at the top of the tail, then it's fine. We talk about taking possession on its own. The property of the deceased convert can be acquired only by an action that products an immediate improvement upon or change in the property. Therefore, actions such as sawing or building one partition on top of the other are not effective. That's Choshen Mishpat 275. We also discuss if it's the entire wall of the enclosure that separate from the courtyard is breached, and the enclosure is exactly area of 2 Beit Se'ah, is forbidden to carry the enclosure because the width of the wall count toward the area of the 2 Se'ah. We explained that if you have a situation that is 2 partitions, when you have the enclosure larger than the area necessary to grow 2 measures of grain, and what was initially enclosed in the purpose of residence, and 1 wall of the enclosure was breached to a length of more than 10 cubits, so then if this later partition falls at the wall, then once again it's prohibited to carry the enclosure even if there is another partition present. That's Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, again, Shinun Chet 358. And tomorrow we're going to elaborate on the issue of the new and old town, that it's first surrounded by the wall and only afterwards settled. What exactly the halacha in regard to those walls.